Hey, Shotmaker podcast listeners. I am so excited for this week's episode. We are joined this week by the management team of Garden Catering, which is an 8-unit restaurant group out of Connecticut and New York. And our discussion this week really focuses on the Restaurant Leadership Conference. We attended the Restaurant Leadership Conference in early April of 2022. But more than just the conference, what we talk about is what is really going on in the restaurant industry? What are the trends? What are people saying? It's been a long 2 years for restaurateurs all across America. And for the first time in 24 months, people were able to gather in person, and not just people, but thought leaders, CEOs of the big brands, owners all over the country were all able to get together in Phoenix to really talk through what is going on, from supply chain crisis to technology and what's happened there, to customer behavior and third-party delivery and all of those things. And what's great is to hear the insight from the Garden Catering team, who is so much on the front lines of it, right? Really dealing with technology, dealing with third-party apps, dealing with customer behavior, and really at the same time, trying to position themselves for growth in the future. So it's a great conversation on so many levels, and I'm very thankful for them for taking the time to join us today. All right. Thank you so much today for Zino, Carr, and Matt Hurta from Garden Catering for joining us here on the Shotmaker podcast. What I'd love to do is start off by talking about your roles at Garden Catering, but not just your roles, a little bit of the backstory of the fact that you guys have, kind of grew up together and are taking on this second generation restaurant and taking it to the next level. So can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. My name's Matt Hurta. I'm the Chief Financial Officer with Garden Catering, and I've been with the company about 13 years now. And like you said, we're all friends from growing up. I've worked with Frank, the owner, and his sister, for years now, but also grew up with them. And Zino, I went to high school with, and we played sports together as well. So it's definitely a family run operation for sure. And I really think that helps add to the dynamic. Of course, it's a business, but that at the end of the day, it's fun too, and that's what we're all here for, to make it a great place to work. So
awesome. And tell us a little bit about, you knew Garden Catering growing up, and now you're running it. Like, what is it like to kind of take over a brand that everybody knows? Because anyone who doesn't, know Garden Catering, I mean, you're pretty well known in the, Southern Connecticut, suburban New York area. So what is it like to kind of carry on a second generation brand?
It's an honor, and it's a huge responsibility. I think I grew up, like I said, going as a customer. I used to ride my bike across town. I grew up on the other side of town, actually, probably over where Frank and Matt actually grew up. But I used to ride my bike all the way down to Old Greenwich, which is about 5 miles each way, to get nuggets and fries when I was a kid, probably 10, 12 years old. And, we played rugby in high school together. I was a little older than these guys, but I graduated with Tina. So, coming in, many years after, getting out of college and joining the team, it was a huge responsibility to maintain the reputation, the standards that we had. And I came in immediately impressed with all that Frank and Tina and Matt had done to essentially organize and create the systems that were going to enable the company to grow and to be able to duplicate what we had done and built a cult following around in Old Greenwich, and kind of scale that out to, the surrounding communities, which they'd already done so to a pretty nice degree. And what we're looking to continue to do now going forward, adding to our tech stack. We could talk later about, how the landscape and the industry has changed so much, and how we've become so much more dependent on technology. Restaurants are always kind of way behind the curve with technology. Now seem to be a lot of innovation is happening in the restaurant space. So it's exciting. And again, it's a big responsibility. It's a good that we're all friends and know each other and grow up together, because that helps to inform the dynamic and the culture of the company going forward. Hopefully that we can maintain that sense of community and family in each one of the stores as we grow.
Yeah, we're ambassadors of the brand, the epitome of the ambassadors of the brand. And we have been since day one. So it's, we feel like it's our responsibility to continue that.
We basically still eat it's like every single day.
Right. Because they're really good. So who wouldn't? Yes. But so, where this story is going is, we just attended the Restaurant Leadership Conference together out in Phoenix. But before we get there, what I'd love to talk about is obviously a lot of what was talked about are the lessons learned of COVID, right? So, and I actually met with you guys like right the day before COVID shut the world down for the first time. So talk me through like the early days of COVID, right? Knowing you're this established brand, that you're, this local community, and then all of a sudden, the world just falls apart. So talk me through those early days.
I mean, when that happened, like you said, it's like the world stopped and what are we going to do? I mean, we were always and have been and will be a company that can pivot, I think, fairly quickly. We have a strong executive team and, a lot of good ideas flow through us every day. So right away, we knew that we had to probably pivot more to the third party and to make sure our third party platforms were strong for online ordering and really just retraining the staff in the stores, how to deal with customers coming in, the pickups. It was a fair bit of retraining, I would say, but everyone really embraced that. And the fact that we are a strong part of the community, I feel like our customer base, went along with that as well and able pretty quickly to adjust.
Yeah, I'd say, we were able to reach out to a community because we have been in this community for so long. It was really nice to get the response that we did from our guests and from our community. So when we were looking for things first, how do we survive, right? And quickly we realized we've got the right business model, which is a QSR. So we had the biggest change we had to make was closing the door and saying, all right, you're not coming in our door, but we're going to make it as easy as possible for you to still come here, order your food either by phone or ultimately through our own first party apps and, and online ordering or through third party. You're going to be able to get your food. But once we had built that structure out pretty quickly, we could start to look outside of our four walls back into the community and say, what does the community need from us? And everybody rallied around it. And it certainly wasn't just us. It's just the restaurant industry in general. We're all about hospitality. And I think that was probably the biggest bright spot and lesson that we saw across all restaurants was, what can we do for our greater communities? What can we do? And it started with, first responders. We pretty quickly saw that was getting saturated. Everyone wanted to feed the hospital workers, cops, firefighters, et cetera. And we realized that was a pretty well saturated market. They couldn't eat probably all the food they were getting donated. So we pivoted toward, people suffering from food insecurity. And we got a lot of buy-in from the communities, or the communities around our stores. And it was wonderful to see. We had our Nugs Not Hugs program, which is basically and ultimately a Nuggets for nonprofits. But we were able to raise a lot of money, make a lot of food, make a lot of people happy. And at the same time, we were still driving sales. So I'd say, again, another thing, you can't be afraid to try new things. Just see what sticks, that expression, throw it at the wall and see what sticks. So we were making, doing the family meals or, we didn't really venture into the household goods and selling toilet paper and everything, but the options were there. We were looking at everything and trying to see how we could boost up bottom line, just make sure that there were going to be no layoffs, which we're very proud to say there were no layoffs. We had no layoffs throughout the entire thing. We were looking for people. We were hiring people throughout. So, just got to continue to try and see what else you can add. We tried a virtual kitchen in one of our stores. We did 2 pop-ups throughout. We did our Clam Shack pop-up over the summer. We did a barbecue pop-up where we invited, another local chef in and let him kind of build his brand through our catering kitchen. So just try and do some fun things and keep the momentum going forward.
I think from a financial aspect, one of the most important things with which you obviously helped us with, Ann, was really making sure that, all the PPP loans, we had those in order, and ERTC credits, we applied for all of those. Anyone who didn't do that and had the opportunity, they got left behind because that was a huge advantage for anyone who actually, went through the process correctly.
Yeah. And not just that, though. That you guys also, kind of going back to that theme of technology. You guys ended up, converting everything to R365, which was no easy feat during COVID, formally took over as the, second generation. You guys did a lot, I think, on your infrastructure as well. Also, your first party app, like a lot on the technology front that I think also probably helped.
Yeah, I mean, especially with, like you said, R365, Restaurant 365, our accounting and operations software, we were coming over from a legacy system and, having to make sure that the 8 locations that we had were transitioned over correctly. And there was a lot of testing and working with the company. And we found that Restaurant 365 is really a great system. If you put in the work yourself to make it right, you're going to have one system, everything under one hood, your accounting, your operations, your inventory, your scheduling, your sales forecasting. So that definitely helped us dial in everything, all together under one hood and in one system. And yeah.
And, moving over to Lunchbox, we migrated our loyalty. We got our own first party app for the first time, our CRM, for the first time we had sort of a real CRM and customer relationship management platform, and then having a better, more well integrated online ordering experience for our guests. Ultimately, COVID accelerated the innovation in that space in particular. And we had looked at any number of solutions. We tried a number of solutions over the years, and each one got a little bit better, but nobody was able to quite crack the code for the proper POS integration or complete POS integration that we needed. And Lunchbox was able to do that. Actually, in short order, they built the integration in about 6 weeks for their first Brink POS customer. And they built that in about 6 weeks. And those remaining things like making promotions work, making digital gift cards work through their platform, so that we had essentially an omni-channel presence, omni-channel ability to conduct commerce, and have it be the same experience in store or online for our guests. They were able to crack that code. So yes, it was a fair amount of work, but when you got the doors essentially closed and that customer facing component of your business is not under as much pressure, because you got to basically smile while you answer the phone, but your front of house people have now become expo people and back of house workers. You're almost a ghost kitchen by default when your doors are closed. And that allows you a little bit more flexibility to focus yourselves inside, look at your systems, and hit the gas pedal, and make sure that you're going to get those things done by the time your doors are open back up. You're already, hit the ground running and you're ready to go. So,
yeah. No, so fast forward now, because now going into 22, we're kind of COVID's a little bit behind us now. What was the thought process to, I guess, going to Restaurant Leadership Conference? Now you guys are kind of resetting growth goals. Explain kind of that mindset going into like an in-person event, and what really you left that event with.
I think the event was great. It was our first time attending. And although we were one of maybe the smaller, units that were there, I felt like it validated a lot of things that we were doing as far as what Zino was speaking to with the technology that we brought on and the systems that we, honed and made very, work even better for us. A lot of other things that came out of that, which I saw from that meeting, I think really making sure that you have a strong culture, not only within your employee base and your internal, company, but also with your customers. We continue to do that even through COVID. Our customers appreciated that. Like Zino said, it's hard, you're trying to smile through the masks, and we still did that. Yeah. But really just, validating what we've been doing and knowing that, hey, we've done a lot of hard work here, and some of the big guys, this is what they're saying too, and we've done some of this. I think sticking to that, making sure, we continue to make sure there's a strong internal culture at our stores is important, and continue with AI and any new technologies coming out that'll help improve those processes.
Yeah, one thing that, on a more macro scale, you hear all the doom and gloom from the media and, this many restaurants are closing. And I really feel so deeply for those restaurants who didn't make it out of the pandemic. But it was nice to see for those who did, come out to that conference and see all the excitement. I mean, this is a business built of hospitality people, social people, and to get them all together out at an event, it was kind of like, it was almost like perfect for springtime. It was like everybody was emerging from this hibernation and kind of, cathartic for, I think, a lot of people. And that, overall, that was awesome to experience. And like Matt said, the validation component was huge, because it let us know that, despite our size, that we're on the right track, that we're picking the right tools that we're thinking in the right way. We're organizing organization. Yeah. So the way that we're structuring our business right now is preparing us for growth, and the opportunities abound to do so. So we're excited. One thing that I picked up a lot on was data. So we're all collecting data from all these different points, and how do we make sense of data? I think that's the next challenge for us, is we don't necessarily have, the business intelligence tools at our disposal that are designed to really, really dive deep into that data, to really, really get to know our customers on a deeper and more holistic level so that we can communicate with them and meet them where they are. So I'm excited to see what opportunities there are to partner with maybe, some more forward-looking companies in that field to better understand our guests and invite them to come in, one more time a month, two more times a month, and see if we can grow our business more organically. So there's, opportunity abounds. We just need to know how to capitalize on the data we're already collecting.
It's not just looking at, dollars and guest counts and ticket averages. It's, diving a little deeper and, finding out more about the customer as much as we can, because, numbers are great and we've become a very data-driven company. And we're utilizing those numbers for good. But I think, like Zino said, to really, find out what the customer wants and be involved with them is extremely important.
It's what they expect now.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to see, like, when you see, the CEOs of these big companies, I think, like you said, that's the biggest differential, is how data driven they are and how much they know about their customers. But I think where you guys are,
food is almost secondary
right.
to a lot. They're like, yeah, we're a data and technology company. We happen to sell hot dogs or whatever. So
it's so true. Like, you hear them talk and you're like, I don't think he knows how to cook, but he knows a lot about their business. So that's okay. But what's interesting, I think, and I use you guys a lot as an example, some of our other clients, is the fact that, Zino's role, which is, chief technology officer. I mean, that, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have had that, right? You would have just had a bunch of GMs and, owners and that's it. But I mean, talk to me about how much time you spend with your technology on a weekly basis.
Probably 75% of my time, I'd say. I mean, I still actually spend time out in the stores. I still do the odd catering delivery.
We all still wear many hats.
So we're still conduct, I'll go conduct interviews or hire somebody or do a trial, because this is still the restaurant industry. We're still, an emerging brand. So you can't silo yourself entirely. You don't want to, actually. I mean, you want to have your kind of finger a little bit on the pulse of each component of the business, so you understand where needs are, where you're lacking and where you can improve. So that's important. But still, I'm spending more and more time on technology, from a POS unit failing in one of the stores to how can we improve our labor scheduling, what tools can we layer on to make it easier for our managers to optimize their labor schedule, to schedule more efficiently so that we have our aces in places during our busy hours, things like that we now are getting more and more tools to actually be able to execute on those goals. You're getting software and solutions that didn't exist a few years ago, or they're just getting refined. I mean, Restaurant 365 and 7 Shifts, we've been talking to them. They have a, almost an automated schedule builder. So it remains to be seen how well, how well it actually does that. But, all signs point to it being a great solution. So there's any number of different things to keep me busy.
One thing that was a common theme as well in the restaurant leadership conference was that, we're still in like the first inning of this AI technology game. And, there's still time to get where you need to be. So it's an emerging, theme, but to stay on top of that is critical if you want to be successful in this industry.
Well, I agree. And I think the other thing too is, I think, especially for independents, right? You hear, kind of this pushback of, well, my GM will never know how to run the software, so why am I going to do that? Or I just don't have time to, get my staff won't be able to do it. And I think what's interesting when you see the big guys who have like 100 locations or, 1,000 locations, is they're not relying on their GM to do the technology. They're trying to make it as easy as possible for their team with roles like Zino and yourself, Matt, that, then you guys kind of do the complex stuff and then make it as easy as you can. And it sounds like that's kind of what your philosophy is with the technology as well.
Yeah, I think that's important to try to, not to say, dull it down a little bit for people, but I think it's important to still have that conversation with the GMs and make sure that they still know the numbers. You're transparent on how the stores are performing, especially making sure they are keeping their prime cost in line, their food and labor. And I have conversations every week with my GMs, an hour conversation with them, and reflect on the previous week's prime cost. We lay out this week's labor. We make sure it's in line, also the food cost. But I think as time goes on and we scale up, to get these systems more in place where it's almost more automated, where, oh, we thought we were going to do this much in sales this week. Yeah, we did do that, and, instead of going through in detail how much you should have to spend with each vendor, that it lays it all out for you in a pretty simple platform based off your forecasted sales. So I think it's important to still have that close, contact with your GMs, but also tie in, the data part of it. So it's more automated as well.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we don't want our GMs behind a computer or in front of a computer for most of their day. We want them to be in front of our guests, to be coaching their teams up. At the same time, therefore we want to get our technology as simple as for them to use as possible. But it's also an opportunity for engagement with our employees, with our GMs and our line level employees, because some of this technology can be improved. We're working with some vendors where they've only been around for 2 years and they're looking for new features. They're looking to develop their software. They're looking for that feedback. And we can actually actively engage our own team and say, what could be better about this? Sometimes we might have a GM or an AGM really understand scheduling, for example, really well. And that may be an opportunity for advancement for them, so we want to engage them, throughout. And whoever shows a hunger for more knowledge, we're happy to give it to them. And I think that's really important, to constantly be engaging your team and feeding them whatever they're willing or eager to learn. Because I'm not worried about them taking my job. I mean, they please. No, no. But you want to train somebody ultimately to take your job. That means you're doing your job well if you're able to coach somebody up who can replace you, or you can go on vacation, or you can do something else that the company needs and someone can step in and fill in for you. So I think, to Matt's point, he and Drew and Monica on our team have done a great job of having these weekly calls with our managers and showing them everything. I mean, these guys get to see our full P&L. They understand how the dollars flow throughout the entire business. They understand what levers to pull and push to reach those budgetary requirements, and still hit their numbers, and still have, they know what success looks like, by the numbers. And that's super important. And it's super important with technology for them to understand how the systems work, but also why we need them to, why they're designed the way they are, why they work the way they are.
And again, to show that we're vested in their future and growth path within the company. That was a common theme at the restaurant conference. You want to provide a path for your employees from day one. And if they see that and they know that you're invested in them, they're going to be invested in you. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, cool. So what's next on the horizon for 2022? What did you take away as like the things that you're, going to work on in the next 12 months?
Well, labor. So, recruiting is a common theme. I'm sure you heard the show. Everybody's looking, everyone's fighting for the same labor pool. So we're going to constantly refine our packages to try and bring in the best and brightest people.
Our training program.
Yeah, and our training program to make sure once we get them in the door, we get them up to speed as quickly as possible and we keep them engaged and buying into our culture. I think that's something we can continue to work on. We're far from perfect in that regard. We have that culture here at our corporate office, but making sure that carries over to the opposite, the north and south stores, right? That everybody is sort of buying into our core values and living and breathing what we're about every day. So that's always going to be a challenge. And then data, again, how do we continue to use data to inform our choices on where we might want to open new stores, for example? There's a lot of technology out there to do that, from Placer and SiteZeus and a number of other solutions out there.
Speaking of which, coming at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, we will be opening our new location in Darien, Connecticut. That will be store 9, Garden Catering. So could blast that out there. And then on social media too, but we're building that out right now, and we're in the process of looking for other locations as well. We'd love to get up to 10 locations by 2024.
Getting Fairfield County on lock.
Another thing too, which has been a big thing, is the food cost. As everyone knows, it's been a big pain point, and supply chain issues, of course, which everyone's felt. But the food cost, especially for us being in the industry with chicken, volatile commodity, really making sure that we have the right vendors in place and the right product, which Zino has done a lot of work making sure we have that in line, and really just working each week again with our GMs to make sure that their inventory is in line, that their purchases are in line, that any issues we see are tied out, because at the end of the day, you have your non-controllables, your rent, your utilities and all that, but the main things that we can control as operators every day are the food and labor. So again, I can't stress that enough.
It's a really good point. And communication with those vendors is critical. You've got to have that one-on-one relationship, not just with your reps, but maybe with your reps' bosses. You have to ensure that you're holding their feet to the fire, that there's no surprises. We've had too many surprises where, oh, hey, looks like you're not going to, aluminum is unavailable right now. You're not going to be able to get your special bags, or you're not going to be able to get your oyster pails or souffle cups. So we give away a lot of sauce. So souffle. I mean, this is the kind of thing where we're like, hell, if we're going to be out of 2-ounce souffle cups, the industry, well, we can't be out of those. It's just not an option. So we would scour the internet and we'd look high and low and buy whatever we can and stock them up. So building redundancy into your supply chain for those commodity type items like souffle cups and things like that, to know that should your prime vendor have supply issues, that you have a plan B, C through J. You need to know where to look, when, and be able to get there and have an account set up with a credit card on file right away so that you can order those things. That, it doesn't seem like the supply chain issues are going to disappear overnight. It looks like the rest of the year is going to be dodgy. And so definitely would recommend to anybody that they constantly look through their inventory.
A few steps ahead all the time.
Yeah. And look what you absolutely can't do without. Those things that are unique to your brand or to your operation, and make sure that if you have to put a little cash out up front to hold on to that inventory, it's not a bad hedge to do it, because you'll use the product, but at least that way you're not going to run out.
Right. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm a huge Garden Catering fan. I think you guys are headed in such great direction, and thank you for taking the time today.
You got it.
Thank you very much.
Anna.
Anytime.
Thanks.